Hello and welcome everybody at home, at work, wherever you are. Today we're going to talk about the positive powers of terrible problems. If we look at problems, normally we think that problems are monsters. They're dangerous. We should run away from them. But trust me, problems are not monsters. Problems are not dangerous. Problems mark the beginning of your success. So the first insight is to kickstart success. Seek out the problems. Don't run away from them. Seek where the problem is. Try to find the problem and you will have great success. Here is a very easy example. If I ask you what you can do with a deck of cards, you might come up with very creative solutions. If you live in a hot climate, you might say, oh my God, I can use it as a fan. Or if you're bored and you want to play with your kid, you can build little houses of cards. And if you want to have some excitement, you can play poker. And all those ideas are really, really great. But all those ideas are not solutions. Because in order to have a solution, you need a problem. So if your problem is that your chair is wobbly, all the great creative ideas I had before, from the fan to playing poker to the card house, are no good. The only solution that counts is if I put the deck of cards under your chair. So the relevance of your solution is defined by the problem. The relevance of a fan is great if it's hot. The relevance of playing poker is great if you want to have some fun with friends. But if the chair is wobbly, the only solution is to put the deck of cards under the chair. And that's not the only thing problems can do. Problems can do a lot more. Problems make things interesting. If the game of golf would be to take a golf ball in your hand, walk all the way to the hole and play the golf ball in the hole with your hand, that would be a really, really boring game. It's only interesting if I add the additional problem of, yeah, but you cannot use hands. You must use a stick. With the additional problem of the stick, the sport becomes interesting. The same with basketball. If the basket would be low and you just put the ball in the basket, it's as exciting as cleaning up. Only if the basket is high, you have to dribble, there's an opposing team, then the sports gets interesting. So the additional problems make the sports interesting. And it doesn't just make sports interesting, it makes stories interesting as well. If Little Red Riding Hood would just bring wine to her grandma, how boring. But if there's a wolf, all of a sudden there's excitement. All of a sudden there's a problem. All of a sudden there's the question, what will she do next? What will the wolf trigger? And that's not just true for stories, it's true for movies as well. If Star Wars would be a bunch of people flying through space and nothing would happen, how boring. Only if you add the additional problem of Darth Vader, all of a sudden the story becomes interesting. Because Darth Vader turns the regular people into heroes. Without Darth Vader, they wouldn't be a hero. They would just be a bunch of guys. But with the problem, they have to grow beyond themselves. And that is what a hero does. They have to face the problem. They have to fight the problem. They have to do hero stuff. So Darth Vader defines the others because Darth Vader is an added problem. That is true for all kinds of problems. Problems make stories interesting, brands interesting, services interesting, and they make you interesting. If you look at business life, a customer has a certain problem. Oh my God, I'm hot. What can I do? Oh my God, my chair is wobbly. What can I do? Oh my God, my car doesn't start. What can I do? The problem gives the customer the energy to look for a solution. And then you show up and you say, hey, I have a solution. If you come to me, I can give you a service and you will have a better future. A future where you're not hot, where the chair is not wobbly, and where your car starts. So that means that the difference between the problem that the customer has and the better future that you promise the customer is the value of your service. That's the value of what you do. If the problem is really small and you still offer paradise, oh my God, I live in a very great area anyway, I don't need your service. It's not a big value. However, if you live in hell and you offer paradise, what a great thing. So the level of your service is defined by the difference between the problem and the assumed future. That means that your market is at the problem. Your value is at the problem. Your customer is at the problem. Everything is at the problem. And the better future is the promise that you will give them. So the better future is your promise. The problem is your market, and the promise is the marketing, obviously. So marketing talks about the better future, but the business, the sales, the actual getting the customer is done at the problem. The trick is not to find a solution that everybody shares. The trick is to find a problem that everybody shares. However, very often we don't look at the problems, we embrace the solutions. But as I just said, true success embraces the deeper problem, not the solution. The business is at the problem. Let me give you a very easy example that probably everybody knows of. If this lady's problem is to listen to music, and that was my problem for many, many years and still is, there has been tons and tons and tons of solutions and executions to get rid of that problem. The first execution when I was a kid was vinyl. Music was on vinyl. After vinyl came CDs. After CDs came iTunes. After iTunes came Spotify. And something will replace Spotify. That means that the execution to the same problem is constantly changing. But the problem stays. So the trick is to make the problem your mission. If your mission is the problem of listening to music, you can be in the market forever. If your mission is to have a CD factory, you will be only in the market as long as CDs are relevant. So don't look at the solution, look at the mission and look at the problem. However, many companies ignore their mission and many companies only see the solution. Not a single candle maker moved into light bulbs. No horse carriage maker transformed to making cars. No post invented email, WhatsApp, Instagram. My advice is to own the problem. Don't just own the current solution. Obviously, there's positive examples as well. I have a kid, so I like to go to public pools with a kid. And I think, in my world anyway, that the mission of the public pool for very, very long has been to enjoy water together. It's water, it's a pool, and you should enjoy it, and you should do it together because it's public. And that was true in 1910, and it was true in 1953, and it was true in 2009 with water slides, and today maybe with surfing and stuff like that. So the execution of what the public pool does changed, but the mission, enjoying water together, stayed. And that's why public pools are still relevant today. And that is also true for businesses. IBM stands for International Business Machines. And that's what their mission is. In 1923, IBM invented punch cards. And it's true to the mission. It's international, it's a machine, and it's a business solution. So it's perfect. But that's not the end of the story, because in 1961, they said, hey, let's ditch the punch cards and let's move into electric typewriters. It's true to our mission. It's still business, it's still a machine, and it's international, so we dominate the world with electric typewriters. And they did. And then in 71, they invented the floppy disk. Different execution, same mission, followed by the PC, followed by the ThinkPad, followed by Watson. And now in 2022, at the end of 2022, the business analysts said that IBM in 2022 bet its large cap tech peers, including Microsoft and Amazon. So that is unbelievable. 100 years in business. Why? Because they stuck to the mission. 100 years of the same mission, but different executions. So think about the problem, make the problem your mission. The problem is the long-term asset you have. Problems make your action interesting and valuable. But that's not all that problems do. Problems also inspire. If I ask you to come up with a shoe, you might think about a business shoe. And then I add a problem. I'm not talking about a business shoe. I'm talking about a shoe for running. And then all of a sudden, boom, your execution changes. And I add another problem. That's not just a shoe for running. It's a shoe for running in the woods at night. And then you might go, oh my God, if it's running at night and in the woods, it's probably really good to have some light, otherwise you don't see where you're running. So let's add a flashlight powered by your energy of running. And that's a great idea. So the inspiration of an additional problem made your idea even better. And then I say, hey, it's the woods. There are animals living in the woods. They don't want to be disturbed by your light. The insects get confused. The foxes get confused. Everybody gets confused. So let's have a shoe for running at night in the woods without light. And then you go, oh my gosh, how can we do that? And then you might come up with crazy solutions like geolocation and LiDAR and all kinds of things. Every problem made your creative solution more unique, more valuable, and more precise. Adding problems sparked creativity. From shoe to jogging to night in the woods to no light, it was a perfect line of ever better solutions. We all know that it's not a straight line in reality. It's very crooked and very curvy. And the reason why it's crooked and curvy is because we face short-term problems that we have to deal with immediately. We have a long-term vision, but then we're running out of money, or the office is closed, or the internet is down, or all kinds of things that force us to react quickly and do something immediately. And those problems in business are called the crocodiles. The crocodiles. And the crocodiles are everywhere, and the saying goes, you have to hit the crocodile that's next to the boat. If you are rowing towards a solution and there's a crocodile attacking your boat, oh my God, internet is down, you take the oar and boom, hit it. So hit the crocodiles, that's a good thing, but always stay on target. Always keep rowing towards the final goal. There's a famous saying that says, the more chaotic the circumstances, the more long-term your vision has to be. So, if you are a captain on a boat and there's a storm, obviously you have to deal with that storm. But after the storm flips your boat around and you survive the storm, reorient yourself. Ask yourself, where was it I wanted to go? Look for something that's really far away that can give you orientation. In case of a captain of a boat, that might be the North Star. It's so far away, it's not even in our galaxy. But it helps you to find your goal, to stay on target, and to reach the goal that you wanted to reach when you left in the first place. I give you another example. I'm an international keynote speaker, so this was a keynote I gave in Singapore. And before the keynote, we had a little tour through the city and we had a tour guide. The tour guide said that when Singapore was founded, I think in the 1950s or 60s or something, their goal was not to have a garden in a city. Their goal was to be a city in a garden. A much bigger goal. And they knew that they can't do it like that. And that's why they called this vision the 100-year vision. And today, not even 100 years later, it's done. Singapore is the greenest mega city on the planet. So they achieved the goal. And why did they do that? Because they stuck to the vision and they measured everything they do against this vision. Every single thing. So if they wanted to have, let's say, a freeway, they asked, should it be above ground or below ground? Oh, our vision is to be a city in a garden. So it cannot be above ground because we don't want a freeway in a garden. So it has to be below ground. And they did that with everything. They looked at a building and they saw the building, that the facade of the building is concrete and that there's no insects and no plants on the entire street. And they said that cannot be. If we want to be a city in a garden, we have to have a green facade. And we have to have a meadow on top of the building where insects can find flowers and make honey and stuff like that. Then we are a city in a garden. So they measured everything they did against that vision. And that was a really, really good thing because that helped them to achieve the goal. You are as big as your vision. If your vision is to have one more park, your actions might be small. Small vision, small action. You talk to a guy who has a parking ground and you say, hey, can we transform this parking ground into a park? And he says, yeah, let's do it. Very small vision, very small action. If your vision is to have 5 parks, your action become a little bit bigger. You don't just talk to a neighborhood guy, maybe you talk to a council and you create something bigger in your neighborhood. But if your vision is to be a city in a garden, then your action is very, very different. Big visions need big action. You talk to the government, you write it down in the law. It's a completely different thing, and then you're strong and big. Big visions need big actions. As James Cameron, the director of Avatar and Titanic and Terminator said, if you set your goals ridiculously high and it's a failure, you will fail above everybody else's success. So think big and act big. How can you do that? If we have uniqueness on one axis and value on the other, there's one area where you're not very unique and not very valuable, and that's an unattractive area. That's an area where there will be price wars, where it's very easy to copy you and people will get the cheapest thing. Avoid that. Don't produce things that are not so unique and not so valuable, because you will enter the quadrant of price wars. If you are very unique but not so valuable, it might be a great hobby. If, however, there's something that has a lot of value and it's not really unique, try to get a lot of it. A lot of gold is probably better than just a little bit of gold. A lot of money is great. Money, gold, all those things, not really unique, but highly valuable, so get a lot. But the best quadrant, the jackpot, is if you can produce something or be something that is both very unique and very valuable. That is the best quadrant to be in. That's the jackpot. And that is true for businesses and relationships and friendship in private life and business life, everywhere. So every day, try to be a little bit more unique. And every day, try to create something that is a little bit more valuable. And eventually, at least after 100 years, you will reach that goal and be in the most valuable and unique quadrant of them all, the jackpot quadrant. But there's one dangerous thing, and I have it right here. And this is the lollipop of mediocrity. Beware the lollipop of mediocrity. Lick it once and you suck forever. So let's put it away quickly. Don't do mediocre things. People will see it and people will say, oh, that's the person who did this mediocre thing. I don't think this person can do something amazing, amazingly unique, amazingly valuable. As Karl Lagerfeld said, don't design a mediocre dress. Somebody will buy it and they will know that you did it. Don't do that. Beware the lollipop of mediocrity. Lick it once and you suck forever. Final observation, problems get stuff done because problems increase the speed of your action. Just look at what happened during COVID times. During COVID times, there was a big problem. You couldn't be with other people or you might get sick. So you couldn't go to the office or you might get sick. And companies digitized extremely fast and went from on-premise work to remote work in 10 days. It was assumed that it would take 454 days to establish a proper home office infrastructure. It was done in 10 because the problem was big. You don't waste times when problems are massive. That's why ambulances are fast. That's why firefighters are fast. Urgency beats analysis paralysis. You cannot think yourself out of a problem. You can only solve a problem by acting. You need to go towards the problem. That's what firefighters do. They go towards the fire, and then you need to fight the problem. That's why they're called firefighters and not fire measurers. So you need to act fast if there's a problem, and you can use the problem to get the power to act fast. That is why in this picture you can see the Hulk. The Hulk turns from a regular guy into a big, strong monster because there's a problem. So if problems make you bigger, stronger, smarter, and faster, if problems make your services more interesting and even help you to secure a successful future, if problems make you unique, valuable to others, and keep you from sucking the dangerous lollipop of mediocrity, my question to you is, what is the story behind not acting on problems? And I said the magic word, story. So let's go to the story cam, and I will read you a story right now. Let the story time begin. Once upon a time, there lived a noble young man in a beautiful castle in an even more beautiful park. Mighty trees cast their shadows on wide meadows full of fragrant flowers which showed off their brightest colors to attract a busy abundance of bees. This castle was called Highclere Castle, and every day the young nobleman looked at his magnificent park, which in reality looked a little bit more like this, and every day a nagging desire grew inside his brain. A desire for something even more special, even more beautiful, even more rare, for something which at the time no one else in the whole wide world had chosen as the most exquisite feature of their garden. As his desire grew even stronger, he finally turned to the greatest landscape architect his country has ever seen, Sir Lancelot Brown. Lancelot Brown carefully studied the wishes of his client. Precisely, he measured the entire overgrown area and catalogued everything from the length of the small stream to the number of hornets' nests in the fallen, hole-covered tree trunks. A short time later, he announced his brilliantly unique and most radical idea. A lawn! What a triumph! Everyone who saw Highclere Castle surrounded by lawns loved it. Even George Washington visited this unique castle and decided to plant a lawn in his estate in the United States as well. The impact was enormous. Everyone who visited George Washington's estate, Mount Vermont, was irrevocably drawn to the magnificent power of clean, clear, capriciously captivating lawns as far as the eye could see. And so it happened that more and more people shared a desire for this cool, calming clarity for their own homes. And today, barely 300 years later, 75% of all homes in the United States are adorned with exactly the same shortcut lawn that the young nobleman once dreamed of in his beautiful castle. Unfortunately, despite all his care, Lancelot Brown had overlooked a few small details. Lawns kill biodiversity. Lawns need lots of water, 9 million gallons a day to be precise, alone in the United States. And lawnmowers poison the air, generating up to 4% of CO2 in the United States alone. The dream of the young nobleman had turned into a nightmare. Let me put the glasses down. The dream turned into a nightmare, and why? Because we did not know the long-term consequences. Sir Lancelot did not know that the lawn will actually kill biodiversity and create a humongous demand for water. The people who invented the internal combustion engine did not know that 100 years later the world will be polluted and there will be global warming. We are not aware of it. So what can you do to avoid this? The antidote is relatively simple. If you come up with a big idea, please think in extremes. What would happen if everyone has a law? Then Lancelot might have thought, oh my God, then there would be no more trees and no more plants for the bees and no more hiding places for the rabbits. That would be a disaster. What would happen if everyone drives a car? Oh my God, if it's an internal combustion engine, air pollution will be humongous. It's not a good thing. What would happen if everybody uses ChatGPT? Oh my God, if it's everywhere, then we might lose jobs and we might lose creativity and reasons to be happy and stuff like that. Think in extremes, because extreme consequences reveal themselves only in extreme scenarios. But that's not the only way why sometimes we don't act on problems. Sometimes we know the problem and we are aware of the consequences, but we don't care. We say, come on, one last drink, it's okay. One last drink, one last lawn, one last coal plant. We don't think about the future. And then we look out of the window and we say, oh my God, look at what happened now. And you have a headache if you drank, or the world is polluted because you just okayed another coal plant. Why is this happening? It is happening because we don't care about tomorrow. We live in the now. We are having fun at the club and we are aware of the headaches we might have the next morning, but we don't care. In his brilliant book, If Nietzsche Were a Narwhal, Justin Gregg said, our brain is hardwired to focus on immediate problems and immediate benefits only. So what can you do? The only antidote here is to actually make future consequences relevant in the now. If our brain is hardwired for immediate benefits and problems, make future benefits and problems relevant now. That means tax internal combustion engine cars now. Reward people who are going to work on their bicycles now. There's a great example in China, which is a very easy solution. If you buy a new car, you will get a free license plate for the new car immediately if this is an electric vehicle. You will get it for free and you will get it immediately. Big benefit. That's a reward. However, if you buy a new car and it has an internal combustion engine, then you have to pay money for it. It is relatively expensive, and you have to wait for the license plate up to 6 months. So that means that the consequences of either saving the planet or harming the planet are relevant to you in the now. And that's why you will see many electric vehicles on the streets in China today. And that's a great thing. The last and final thing why we don't act on problems immediately is that sometimes we know the effects of our bad actions. We know there will be bad effects if we do bad things, but we celebrate it. We celebrate the disasters. We say, how cool are we? Boom, I'm driving an internal combustion engine car. Ha ha ha, I'm badass. There's a brilliant example from Andrew Tate, who wrote to Greta Thunberg a tweet showing himself filling gasoline into his Bugatti. And he says, hello, Greta Thunberg. I have 33 cars. My Bugatti is blah, 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 blah. My 2 Ferraris, blah, 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 blah. And this is just the start. Please provide me with your email address so I can send you a complete list of my car collection and their respective enormous emission. He's celebrating how badass he is. And what's the antidote? If you have a bad ass, show that they're a stupid ass. And this is what Greta did. She answered, yes, please do enlighten me. And my email is smalldickenergy@getalife.com. Boom, busted. That's how you kill bad assness. Show that they're stupid and there's nothing to celebrate. So to wrap it all up for now, problems are great. Problems make things interesting, kickstart creativity, and secure future success. So own the problem, not just the solution. Be like a public pool or IBM where you concentrate on the problem and make that problem your mission. Don't be like the candlestick maker who just thinks about the production line of the factory that can produce candles and not light bulbs. If you own the problem, think big. You are as big as your problem. Think big, think long term, and you will dominate. Be aware that sometimes we do think short term. Be aware that sometimes we deviate from the plan. Be aware that sometimes we celebrate disasters, but also be aware that there's always an antidote. So, make things relevant in the now. Think in extremes. And show everybody who loves to be badass that they are not badass but stupid ass. And never forget, inject some long-term thinking into your problems and enjoy the creative, energetic, crazy and surprisingly fun ride that problems will give you. Your problems are your mission. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.